Good evening and welcome to Sporlitics, where sports and politics mix and mingle. I'm Stacey Johnson. Joining me tonight is Aguna, the Nigerian moderate Republican, Keith, the constitutional conservative, Stephen, the independent thinker, and my cousin Todd. 14 students and one teacher dead after a tragic shooting at Ross Elementary School today in Uvalde, Texas. The French Open and Todd talk about tennis. The White House walks back President Biden's comment about U.S. intervening with military in Taiwan if China moves against Taiwan. The NBA playoffs continue tonight with the Golden State versus Dallas Mavericks. COVID-19 is still here to stay. Numbers of infections are rising as we head into Memorial Day weekend. An Iraqi citizen living in Ohio is arrested after plotting an assassination attempt against former President George W. Bush. Midterm elections 2022 primaries today across the South in Georgia, Alabama, Texas, and Arkansas. Baby formula shipped to the United States from other countries to be distributed, but it still isn't enough. The United States is currently negotiating a deal among Saudis, Israelis, and Egyptians. We'll tell you why. Oklahoma governor signs new bill criminalizing abortion, and former President Trump is not on Putin's list of Americans banned from Russia. That and more. First up, we'll talk tennis with Todd, and Todd will talk about the French Open. Um, Let me get the clip up for you. I thought I had the clip. I don't think I have the clip. So, Todd, talk about the French Open and what's going on. I couldn't get a clip.
Okay, the French Open. Um, of course, you couldn't find that clip, but you can probably find an NBA clip or NFL clip. Okay, um, it's starting out good. Now, of course, Federer is not playing in the French Open, nor are Venus and Serena. But so it makes it all boring, I know. But for the men,
Venus and
um,
Serena are not playing.
no,
So
no,
that
in the
means you
French
really
Open.
don't want to talk about it, basically.
No, I still want to talk about it.
Mm,
Um, French Open first round, Nadal, he's still in it,
okay.
and he won his first round. Tsitsipas, he won his first round. Um, Djokovic, which, I don't like Djokovic. And you remember him, he was the one with all the controversy in the Australian Open because he didn't want to take the vaccine, the coronavirus vaccine. So he won his first match. Medvedev, don't like him either. Medvedev and Djokovic, they have the same kind of personality. Are you yawning?
Oh, thank you. You want to tell everybody I was coughing? I didn't want to cough.
No, no,
Something went
no.
down the wrong way.
You
That's why I was drinking water. I was not yawning. I do like tennis. That
okay?
is Aguna, and that's Steven, and then that's Keith. They don't like
Keith, yeah,
tennis.
it's all of them. So nevertheless, um, uh, who else? Tiafo. He won his first round for the men. You know who Tiafo is? He's a black guy from the United States.
No, I don't
Uh,
remember him. But there was a
uh,
African guy who retired and he lost his match, right?
no, I don't. Oh, you're probably talking about. He's theatrical. I can't think of his name right now. He just got married to uh, another tennis player. But yeah, I didn't think he retired. Nevertheless, so that's the men's. Now the women's match. Do you remember the little 16-year-old girl, Golf? She won her first round match, so she's still in it. Um, let's see who else. Birdie retired early. Birdie retired right after she won Australian Open. Madison Keys. Do you know who Madison Keys is? You don't know any of these players, really.
Not really.
Okay. Well, anyway, Madison Keys is still in it, and it's going well so far. And I'm hoping for Coco to win for the women, and I'm also hoping for Nadal to win for the men.
Okay.
Yeah, it's early in, so not a lot's happening right now. Early rounds.
Okay. And how long does this last, and when will it stop?
It's going to go about 8 days, and it goes after they narrow it down to the final two winners. And they play, the French court is clay.
Mm-hmm.
French is clay. US Open is hard courts, but French is clay. And Nadal is very good on clay. He's one of the best on clay. So I'm hoping he'll pull out a win.
Okay. Thank you. That's it. I want to look into our breaking news. I'm going to share my screen.
And while the world's deadliest shootings have been overseas, the incidents are most common in the U.S. 31% of the gunmen in mass shootings worldwide were American. From 1966 to 2012, according to a 2015 study by Professor Adam Lankford. Lankford found 42% of the world's privately owned guns were in U.S. homes, even though Americans make up only about 4.5% global population. And U.S. gun ownership is on the rise. As of 2018, the U.S. had 120 firearms per 100 people. That's up from 88 per 2011. That far surpasses the rate of gun ownership in the rest of the world, according to the Small Arms Survey. After comparing worldwide records on mental health and various social factors, Professor Lankford found a country's rate of gun ownership correlated with the odds it would experience a mass shooting. And we still have a lot to get to track on this latest shooting tragedy. Please stay with us. But first, a look at our top trending stories on abcnews.com.
Okay, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of those children lost in that school shooting, as well as the teacher. Keith, you retired from a school. Do you want to tell us the type of security measures that are in place to protect students, teachers, administrators, and staff at schools, and how something like this could have happened?
Well, let's see. I worked for the school system from 2006 all the way to 2021. That was this year. I retired in January of this year. So just to give you an idea of how long I've been with the system, with the school system in LA. This is the LA Unified School District, the second largest district in the country. But this is very interesting, though. They used to have in place all these measures like, they used to have police on campus the entire time of the school year, and during school hours, police were on the campus or around the campus, usually circulating or driving within the area. But after the Black Lives Matter movement and just what recently happened last year, they removed them. The police were taken out of, I mean, this as far as LA is concerned. No LA school police are on campus during the school hours anymore. And this is the first time that I've seen that in the 15
Because
years
of
or
Black
16
Lives
years.
Matter, is what you're saying?
Did I
What
say
is
that?
Black?
Did I say because of Black Lives, or did I say after Black Lives Matter movement when they said no police, defund the police, take the police out? That's what I said. I believe I did say that. So I did
Oh,
not say
okay.
because of Black Lives Matter. Now
Okay.
you might say that, but you know the public officials. I
Well,
don't
you
know if they
tried to
listen to them.
allude to it, and nobody's
Well,
dumb except you.
that's because the public officials came out and they even had all kinds of vigils downtown. The mayor of Los Angeles, the chief of police of LAPD, and the school police. They all came. Well, not the school police; they were against it. But the chief of police of Los Angeles, they came out and joined with the Black Lives Matter crowd, and pretty much gave them said, "We will." Consider your your demands. So basically, that's what happened. They removed the school police, and also punishments have been removed. They used to have police used to go and get truants that would leave school and that would ditch school and would be truant, and they used to bring them back to the school. They used to also charge them $100 fee for being truant, but they removed that. They also removed all punishment, all suspensions. So there are no school suspensions in LAUSD per se. Okay, they don't suspend kids for doing things that are, let's say, illegal or bad, like they used to. And certainly, I'm from the World War II generation, so we certainly don't get SWATs anymore. We used to get SWATs in the principal's
So,
office.
so
So
I'm
all of those
sorry.
things have changed.
Did you
I don't
explain
know.
how you were protecting? What was it? The basic procedure to protect students,
The
teachers,
basic,
administration, and
the
staff
basic
from shootings?
the basic procedure was to keep police on patrol around
Okay.
the perimeter of the schools and
Okay.
also on campus. They had their own office on campus. They had a little police office, a
Okay.
school police office on campus. And they
Okay.
also did checks frequently. They did, they searched kids in high school at least. They searched kids for weapons and things like that. They also had what do you call those? You know those those beepers. They go off when you have a metal detectors. They
Okay.
didn't. Yeah, they had those things, and they used to utilize those. So, but they don't
So how
anymore.
so how in the world do you think that
Wait.
that
But
gentleman
they
got
don't.
into the school?
Well, he probably walked into school. I mean, you can easily do that.
How
Not
can
all
you
school.
easily do that if you have all those things you just said? It sounds like there are layers of
Well,
security. So how can you just easily walk into a school?
I said, and in the beginning, I said, for
Okay, sorry.
many
Mm-hmm.
years, I've been with the district for over 15 years. And
Mm-hmm.
for all the early years that I was with the district, they had locked, they had locked gates, they had locked doors. Even to enter into the office, you had to be buzzed in. Okay.
Okay.
So that was, that was utilized. But recently, everything has pretty much changed. So even after COVID, with the lockdown and everything, it's a little different now. So easily, somebody could easily walk it, or they could hop the fence. It's not impossible to keep people off the campus. I mean, it's not
Okay.
hard to
So
let
cousin
people on.
Todd, what did you want to say?
Okay. I'm going to get back to reality. And for you to let that dialogue go on that long, that tells me something is wrong with you. Oh, you know what? It was Black Lives Matter. That's what happened. Huh? I
That's
didn't
right.
say it. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. Black Lives Matter have nothing to do with this. Nothing. It has nothing to do with why police weren't on site. It has nothing to do with why there are no metal detectors. It has nothing to do with anything he said. He just watches Fox News and regurgitates that crap they talk about, and he's on the dark web. So this was a situation where this 18-year-old boy should not have been allowed to have a gun. And of course, he did. And from what I understand, it was an assault weapon. And so he mowed down 14 children and a teacher. This is elementary school. And then what you will hear from your radical Republicans are things like what Keith was just saying. Well, everything just changed. Black Lives Matter did it. Instead of saying, we've got to do something about gun laws. How many times is this going to happen? And we say, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families. And then what you eating for dinner? It is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. So this is number 3 in 10 days. Remember the supermarket shooting in Buffalo?
In Buffalo, yes.
Yeah, that was 10 days ago. And then our thoughts and prayers go out to the
So
family.
what? I'm not supposed to say that, Todd? I'm not. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the family.
No. It's
to
not
make
you,
that like a
it's the
joke
lawmakers.
because I said that
No,
is
ma'am,
ridiculous. So is it the
I'm
congressional
talking about
lawmakers?
the lawmakers.
Okay, the
You're not a
congressional
lawmaker.
lawmakers.
You
The
cannot
congressional
change these
lawmakers.
laws.
Is
You
it the
can't get
congressional
them
lawmakers,
to
or
enforce
is
laws
it
like,
the
you
congressional
have to-
lawmakers or the
Hey,
local
ma'am,
lawmakers? Which one are you referring to?
Ma'am, let me answer. Why don't you interrupt that kook when he's babbling on about nothingness? I'm saying this. You're not a lawmaker. These lawmakers should do something about this instead of saying things like, oh, everybody should be able to have a gun. It's their Second Amendment right, whether they're insane or not, whether they're a criminal or not. This
Well,
thing
we
where
think
you could just,
about we think about the Sandy Hook shooting. We think about these horrible shootings and in these schools. And it seems like to me after
and supermarkets and churches.
and churches, and it seems like to me after this has happened over and over and over again,
Yes.
it becomes incumbent on the local legislators to do something about it. And I'm talking about your school board dealing with your council in your particular city or borough, and then taking it to the state and having your state legislators reinforce what the local legislators did. This is where it has to come from. You can't automatically go to Congress and say Congress is banning, because every state
Top
is
down.
different. Every
What
state
about
is
a
different.
trickle down
And states
system?
states have state rights. Go ahead, Keith.
I want to make also an observation here, which Todd will totally ignore. So I'm not going to even try to, but anyway, the point I wanted to say, is that that report that you played, that video that you played, I caught the announcer. The man said, in essence, I'm paraphrasing, he said, in essence, that the United States, Americans have more guns than any other citizens of other countries. In other words, we are the ones that have all the guns. Now, doesn't that tell you something? When you have all these shootings that we have had, think about the shootings. The shootings are done mostly in places where guns are not allowed to be brought, like in schools. Okay, so the majority of citizens must be obeying the law, and they are keeping their guns secure. It's only the 1 or 2% or 0.5% of people that go out and start shooting people at random. It is not the people who are law-abiding citizens with guns that are going out to shoot people. Isn't that obvious to you? I mean, it wouldn't be the top.
I can agree with that.
Okay, we have a comment. We have a comment from Paper Doll who says the bottom line is this person should not have been able to obtain a gun. Going off on a tangent about Black Lives Matter, BLM, will not erase that fact. Guns are too easy to obtain in America. That is why this happened. You want to comment on that, Keith?
Yeah, I would love to. Tell that. I don't know
You
what
can
people
tell them. You can tell Paper Doll.
Yeah.
Paper Doll.
I don't know. Paper doll, I don't know what you're thinking about, because I can go to Mexico and get a gun. I mean, if all the guns were confiscated in the United States, I could go to Mexico. I could go to South Central in my area. I can go there and go to a gang. I can go anywhere where people are selling guns off the street. So there is no way that they will confiscate all guns. If that were possible, I'll use a knife, or I'll use a crowbar, or I'll use a wrench, or I'll
No,
use
you
some other
won't be able to kill
device.
14 people
Or maybe
with a
I'll use a car.
crowbar.
Maybe I'd use a car. How about that? You can
Oh,
mow
this is
down people
silly.
with a car, with an automobile. You can mow down people. So don't tell me that a
This
person
is
that has
silly.
it in their mind to hurt other people will not be able to hurt other people because you take the guns away. So you need to understand that.
That's a
And
ridiculous argument, Stacy.
and most
You can't let him
assaults
just
happen,
babble on like this.
and most assaults happen with the fist, and that is a fact. I'm a
Okay.
self-defense
Okay,
instructor, and I
Todd.
know it.
Go ahead, Todd. Respond to
Go
Paper
ahead.
Doll, who wrote that statement, and Keith. if you
Well,
will.
Paper Doll is exactly right. But Keith is exactly wrong to say he could have gone in with a crowbar. A crowbar would not have killed 14 people plus a teacher.
Only takes
See, there's a
one.
difference there.
Only takes one.
If he had a knife, he would not be able to kill 14 people plus a teacher. So
Only
you're
takes
being
one.
ridiculous.
Only
And
takes
so
one.
I think he had an assault weapon. That's why he was able to kill so many people so quickly.
What does it matter
Uh,
how many
we
people he
are
kills?
not at war, and so civilians should not be allowed to obtain these weapons of war.
Okay.
Now, I want to get back to what I was saying about this happens over and over again. And what I was saying is our thoughts and prayers are with the families is not enough. You hear these lawmakers say that over and over again, and that's it. And they move on. And enough is enough. They've got to pass some laws and enforce them. They've got to have background checks on these people. Where an
haven't.
18-year, what is an 18-year-old boy doing with that kind of a weapon anyway? There isn't any. And Keith is the first one to say, you have to have a license to, he wants you to show your license in order to vote. But these people can buy assault weapons with little more than a license, no background checks at all. So now the past 2 shootings, and probably 3, were people who were mentally unstable and radicalized. So something has got to be done. How many
Okay.
killings are we going to have in America before something is done?
Yeah, but I said that something that has to be done is probably going to have to start at the local level, with the local school board, with the local council, with this, then the state legislature, and then it's going to have to be multiple level, and then the feds coming in to reinforce the laws that the states have enacted, because the states are the ones who control their local areas. And the federal government can't tell a school how to operate per se. Department of Education doesn't do that. It's the
Not a
local
school.
it's the local government and school board that does that. So Keith,
We're not
was
talking
there
about
a
just
process?
schools.
But we're talking about schools. You're talking about soft targets.
The
You're
Second
talking about-
Amendment is what we're talking about.
No, but you're
And
talking
the
about
Second Amendment
Second
can't
Amendment
just be
and soft
blanketed.
targets. Yeah, but you're talking about soft targets. These people are attacking soft targets: schools, grocery stores,
Churches, yeah.
malls. These are soft targets. So the question becomes, the local municipalities have to address these soft targets. They
Well,
have to do that so that the federal government can come in and
reinforce it. I understand what you're saying, but what I'm telling you is, what about the trickle-down system? Start from the top. The Second Amendment isn't just some broad. When they wrote the Second Amendment, they were using muskets, not assault rifles. So there has to be background checks done. For example, people who have criminal backgrounds are not allowed to vote. And I'm sure Keith is fine with that. And they're also not allowed to have guns.
Okay.
But
No,
if
that's
you
not.
don't do a background check, you won't know that they're criminals. You won't know that they're mentally unstable.
And let's
For
talk about the
example, let's
trauma. Go ahead,
just a
finish up real
minute.
quick, Todd. You can't go
Okay.
on and on and on and on and on
Oh,
and
I know
on.
I can't. I can't because I'm not a Republican. Keith can because he is. Now, I wanted to talk about the fact that this radicalized supermarket maniac murderer, he had made threats a year before that
Hmm.
he wanted to shoot up his school.
Right.
And the teacher reported him. And so they went to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist deemed that she or he doesn't think he's dangerous.
Hmm.
After all, he's just a good old white boy. Hmm. And so, what they were supposed to do, the school, the psychiatrist, the police, was report him and get a judge to know what he did. Therefore, he wouldn't be able to obtain a gun, not even a year later. But they didn't, because he's just a good old white boy. And he'll be fine until he's not. And so there's no wonder why he did what he did. He was able to do it. And so now, uh, a few days later, you have another case where a man went into a church because he was a disgruntled person. I forget, it was the Chinese versus
The
his
Taiwan,
background was
Taiwanese.
Taiwanese.
So there
And
was a
so he
Taiwanese
was,
church,
it was what?
the Taiwanese church that they went into.
And start shooting people. That was crazy. He's probably has a mental illness. And this guy, I don't know what his problem was. And why go to a school, a church? These people, I don't get it. You have to get stronger on background checks with as far as guns are concerned,
All right.
or
Let's
this is going to
Now,
continue to
Stacy,
happen.
Stacy,
one more comment, Keith, and that's it. We got to
yeah,
move on.
yeah, this is not going to do any good. All this background check and all that stuff, because I'll tell you why. Because the nature of man is still the same. You can't tell what a person's going to do before they do it. This is not Minority Report. You know, a person is going to either be a good citizen or they won't. And I have evidence of that just as you look at throughout the history of mankind. And the best way to tell that is right out of the Bible, as it says that an evil man loves to harm others. Being a good neighbor is out of his line. It's out of his line. In other words, punishing that hurts it chases evil from the heart. So punishment that hurts. We used to punish. We used to punish crimes, but we don't punish anymore in society. So people
What
are
do we do?
emboldened to go out and commit certain crimes. And that is a fact.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
psychiatrists tell you, oh, don't spank your child. Don't spank them. It's abuse. But spanking was adjudicated by God. That a rod, he said, if you hold the rod, you spoil the child.
Spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yes.
Yeah, I
And
agree
so
with that,
what we
Keith.
need to do is go back to the principles of our
Oh,
founding. And we need a
okay.
rod. We need the rod of correction to straighten people out and to
Okay,
adjust their
Stacey, I know you want
attitudes.
to I know you want to move on, but I just have to give one rebuttal to that nonsense. Um,
Uh,
you don't know if somebody's going to commit a crime. Yes, you do when they're telling their classmates that they're going to shoot up their school. Chances are he's crazy and he's going to shoot up the school. So you could tell that immediately. So a background check would have prevented him from getting a gun.
no.
Okay. All right. Let's move on.
We begin with New York City declaring a state of emergency over the nationwide baby formula shortage. The order empowers the city to prevent price gouging as inventory declines. The move comes as help is starting to arrive. Today, the first military cargo plane from Europe arrived, packed with enough formula for 500,000 bottles. The precious cargo, which is intended only for children who are allergic to cow's milk protein, will be distributed to hospitals. Some of it will also be available in stores to parents who have a prescription. The shortage so severe, we've just learned it's caused 4 more infants to be hospitalized. ABC's Faith Abube leads us off.
Tonight, some relief on the way for parents in urgent need of specialized baby formula. The C-17 military cargo plane flying about 78,000 pounds of the formula from Germany overnight, dropping the long-awaited load in Indiana this morning.
Our patients and families across the country are in urgent need of this formula.
President Biden tweeting these photos, writing, quote, "Our team is working around the clock to get safe formula to everyone who needs it." This as ABC News learns that at least 4 infants in South Carolina were recently hospitalized due to medical complications. 3 of them admitted after their parents were forced to find alternatives to their usual formula, and the babies couldn't tolerate the switch. These pallets delivered from overseas today are made up of only these types of formula. They'll be verified and then sent to hospitals and medical providers across the country to distribute to parents whose babies have a medical need, vulnerable babies allergic to cow milk protein.
We're going to be seeing deliveries made in a matter of days. This particular formula is for a very, very small percentage of children, roughly 17,000 children in the country.
Parents with prescriptions from their providers can also get the products from certain stores. According to government officials, there is enough product in this first delivery to make roughly 500,000 8-ounce bottles of baby formula, enough to feed 9,000 babies and 18,000 toddlers for 1 week. But millions of parents will still have to wait for relief. New York City Mayor Eric Adams today declaring a state of emergency to crack down on formula price gouging. Meanwhile, major formula manufacturer Abbott issuing an apology after its voluntary recall of the formula in February and pandemic supply chain issues led to the dire shortage. Robert Ford, Abbott's CEO, writing in a Washington Post op-ed, quote, "We're sorry to every family we've let down. I have high expectations of this company, and we fell short of them." Ford says Abbott will establish a $5 million fund to support families impacted. Still, many parents remain frustrated and panicked.
You can cut the desperation with a knife. Nothing else matters. The world stops until you find that formula.
Just palpable desperation. Faith Abube joins us now. And Faith, so many families waiting for formula. President Biden says the teams are working around the clock, but clearly more is needed. When might we be able to expect additional shipments to arrive?
Lindsay, Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack says he anticipates another delivery of baby formula from overseas to arrive here in the D.C. area later on this week. And tonight, President Biden announcing he's authorizing 2 Defense Production Act orders to ensure manufacturers can speed up production. Lindsay?
Can't come soon enough. Faith, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
So Keith, for 1 week, there's enough formula for these babies who are suffering from certain allergies. They have allergies to cow's milk and things like that. So 1 week. But Abbott Labs unfortunately let us down. They're upset because they unfortunately let us down. But what's the answer? People can't feed their children. They're panicking. This is a real problem.
I don't get it. I really don't know what the problem is. I mean, all of these situations are man-made. They're created by those in power who are the ones who are calling the shots. I never heard of such a thing when Trump was in office for 4 years. 4 years during the pandemic, and I never heard one tale of this. You know, a shortage of baby formula. What is this? Okay. I don't get it. So anyway, all of a sudden we're hearing a shortage of baby formula. I don't know what's going on, but I'll tell you this much though: there are other alternatives. But
what are the other alternatives?
Well, I know people that there's some people are raised on farms. from
They
the.
can't. No, they're saying do not make your own. They're saying
Hold
do
on,
not
hold
make
on.
your own formula, mothers.
I
Don't do it.
didn't say, okay, I didn't say, I'm not an expert in that area and I don't claim to be, but I would just say that I did some reading up on it, and they were talking about the importance of goat milk. I'm sorry, goat milk is very effective. In Africa, they herd goats. Africans,
Okay.
a lot of them use goat milk. Okay, so I don't know,
How would
goat
he
milk is
know?
a good alternative. Goat milk is actually more vitamin
I don't
enriched.
think you should say that, Keith, unless you know that for sure, because these
Well,
babies are having certain allergies, and
look,
you don't know what
hey,
these allergies are.
all I'm saying is that let the people do their own research and try it out. I mean, a lot of people are raised on goat milk. I used to drink goat milk a lot when I was a kid, so
Cousin
I
Todd, were
know
you
that
raised on
you know,
goat milk? But
goat
we
milk
are
is a
not suggesting to any mother or father to
No.
give their child goat milk. Cousin Todd, were
well.
you raised on goat
Sure, they
milk?
have enough sense to know better. They have enough sense to know.
No, I wasn't. Though I think goat milk is probably delicious if you're of age to drink it. But these are babies we're talking about. So, of course, Keith is just in another world. And so he wants to blame this on Joe Biden. It's just amazing the reach these Republicans will do. What difference does it make when this happened? It happened. Now, if you want to say the government should not have been so tightly aligned with just a few of these baby formula companies, I would agree with that. They should have spread it out. But to just have four, it's not enough.
Okay.
It's not enough. I think they should have spread it around. For WIC, they have
Right.
50% of their product goes to WIC. And so I would have spread that around, to different, but they had no idea this would happen. But this, with the coronavirus and all of the backups we've been having, these past 2 years has been rough.
Really
But then, too, I heard it was a sanitation problem at the factory, not being cleaned and that kind of thing. So it happened, and fortunately, the president
Fortunately,
is
it's
jumping
horrible.
on it.
Yes. It's horrible
Fortunately,
that
the
it happened.
president is acting fast, and
I guarantee
within
you, if
a
Trump
few
had been in
weeks or a
office,
month.
you'd be blaming him. I'm sure of it. If
No,
Trump had been in
ma'am.
office, yes,
No,
you would.
no,
Yes,
no.
you would.
This
Yes,
is
you would. And
this
so
is
would
the
the country.
silliness of
Yep.
Americans. They
Yep.
think the president. They think the president has anything to do with the economy. The stock market went up. Oh, it's the president's fault. The stock market went down. Oh, it's not. He has nothing to do with that. But it's just a farce, and people keep pretending that is the case, and it's not.
So we just got another comment from Paper Doll. If you'd like to join us, you can go on YouTube and please like and subscribe. And also you can comment in YouTube and we will display and answer your questions or comment. Paper Doll says, I heard a tale of over 100,000 people who died in a pandemic while Trump was in office. Do you have a comment to that, Cousin Todd?
I do. Oh.
Let Cousin Todd go first and then you can go, Keith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I heard that they died unnecessarily so because he did not take action. He was saying things like, oh, it's a Democratic hoax, and we'll be back in church by Easter. Of course, that was 2 years ago. And this started in March, and Easter is in April, as you know. And we didn't go back to church because people could not gather. So nevertheless, and then of course he was saying things like, yeah, there's bleach that'll wipe it right out. And people were injecting bleach into themselves.
It's really
Trump supporters.
No, they weren't objecting bleach into themselves. Cousin
They
Todd.
were.
They were not.
They
Go ahead,
were-
Keith.
You know, of
What's
all
your
the
response to Paper Doll?
Keith may
well,
have.
our response is that of all the stupid, idiotic things that Todd has ever said, I mean, for him to make a statement that people are stupid enough, maybe they are, maybe some are, but if people are stupid enough to inject bleach in them because they think that Trump told them to, or ingest it, drink it, I mean, because they think that Trump told them to, come on. First of all, if they hate Trump bad enough as you hate him, you would never listen to his advice. But anyway, Paper Doll, or whatever his name is, or whatever their name is, Paper Doll, first of all, you don't identify your source. You heard a tale that 100,000 people died. That's all it is a tale. And that's what I have to say. You heard a tale.
The number is 1 million now.
Well, you heard a tale that 100,000, I'm responding to his or her comment. I'm not responding to yours. He said 100,000 people died in a pandemic while Trump was in office. Okay. Yeah. So I tell you one thing, it's amazing because you're now claiming that Trump is responsible for it when in actuality, COVID is responsible for it.
And speaking of a COVID, let's look at this.
Cases of COVID now rising to the highest point since mid-February in this country, and daily hospital admissions are now projected to rise in nearly every corner of the nation over the next 4 weeks. We'll show you the map here tonight, a picture of the spread. A third of Americans now live in areas where they are raising the risk level to medium or high risk again. Areas there in yellow and orange. Orange, of course, the highest risk. The CDC again recommending wearing masks indoors. Tonight, New York City at the highest risk level. The mayor saying put on the masks indoors, but not requiring it yet. Tonight, 48 states now are projected to see hospitalizations rise in the coming weeks, and raising these risk levels means they're already seeing hospitals and healthcare systems under increasing pressure and a rising death toll. The White House tonight warning that without additional funding from Congress, not everyone will get new vaccines if a new surge strikes this fall, as they expect. And tonight here, the CDC could soon give the green light for Pfizer booster shots for children 5 to 11 as soon as tomorrow. ABC's Whit Johnson leading us off tonight.
Tonight, COVID hospitalizations again on the rise, up more than 60% in the last month. And now a new projection shows nearly every state will see more Americans with COVID going into hospitals in the next 2 weeks, and more patients will die.
In areas where community levels are high, everyone should be using prevention measures and wearing a mask in public indoor settings.
137 counties nationwide now in the high-risk alert level, meaning there is increasing pressure on the health system. New York City also in that category, but for now officials are resisting a mask mandate, instead only recommending them indoors.
We are not allowing COVID to outsmart us. We're staying prepared and not panicking.
And tonight, the White House sounding the alarm about the need for Congress to act on COVID funding.
We will find ourselves in the fall or winter with people getting infected and no treatments available for them because we will have run out.
It comes as the CDC is expected to recommend boosters for 5 to 11-year-olds as early as tomorrow.
I started looking online right away to see about scheduling a shot for her. To have the booster is just an extra level of assurance.
Pfizer says its booster shot is safe, and an initial analysis found it increased antibodies against Omicron 36-fold.
A lot of parents are going to be asking, if I get my child this booster shot, will my child need another shot this fall? And the simple answer is we just don't know. But it's important that we focus on the ways to protect everyone right now while we're seeing cases rise all over the country.
New child COVID infections are at their highest point since February, and hospital admissions are now climbing too, up 70% in the last month.
And Whit Johnson back with us live tonight. And Whit, we know the second booster is now available for Americans over 50. We also know more than half of eligible Americans have not gotten even their first booster yet. And tonight we took note that the CDC guidance on these boosters has shifted for people weighing when to get that second booster shot. They're essentially now saying, if I'm correct here, you'll let me know, if you want to wait because you suspect you might have a greater need for a booster in the fall if there is a surge, the CDC saying they're now okay with that?
Exactly, David. The CDC now says it's okay to consider waiting to get that second booster shot
if you've specifically had COVID within the past 3 months, or if getting the shot now would discourage you from getting one in the fall. That's when health officials are hoping to roll out the next generation of improved vaccines that could help head off another winter surge. David.
All right, Whit Johnson leading us off tonight with thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
Cousin Todd, the numbers are rising, which is odd because people really expect the numbers to rise when most people are indoors and the weather's colder. But it's rising as we go into Memorial Day weekend, holiday weekend. And this last week and a half has been really, really hot. We've had a surge in temperatures, and it's still rising. 90 plus degree temperatures, especially in the East Coast. Should Keith get boosted?
Are you talking to me?
I asked Todd.
No, she's asking me.
Boosted?
Oh.
He already got his vaccine. He used some excuse about it was mandatory, which it was not. And but he knew that he should not listen to Donald Trump, and he knew it wasn't a Democratic hoax. And so he followed the lead of Donald Trump. Trump got the vaccine. This is, of course, after he got the coronavirus. And then he got vaccinated. And so Keith followed suit, and he got vaccinated and got his wife vaccinated. And it was a smart thing to do. And now he should get boosted. I didn't ask Stephen if he was boosted yet.
You mean Keith? That's Steve. That's
Both.
Keith.
Well, if you talk to one, you talk to the other. Yin yang. So it's a good thing to do, to get boosted. It can only help you and help your fellow man.
So
in case you have an elderly parent or children under the age of 6. It's just a smart thing to do. So
Keith, the numbers are rising. Isn't it good to do what the CDC suggests and your local municipality suggests, to mask up?
Nope, no mask.
Why? Where are you getting this information from? Why are you saying no masks?
Well, because the Lord created us to breathe fresh air and without a mask. And I will continue to go without a mask as long as I can. I mean, if I have to enter into a store to purchase food and I have to wear a mask, I may wear the mask just for about 15 minutes while I purchase my food. And as soon as I get to the cashier, I'll pull the mask up and I'll put it all over my face and get my food. And then as soon as I leave the cashier, I'll take it back off. But I will not be wearing a mask. Yeah, but I'm not going to wear a mask endlessly like I see people walking around outside by themselves in their car, windows up, mask on, by themselves. I'm not going to do that because we were created to breathe and we need oxygen. And we breathe out. Just by incidentally, we also exhale CO2, and the plants take in CO2, and in return, the plants give us oxygen. That's called, what do you call that? You guys remember that science? Does anybody remember what they called it?
I do, Keith, but what does that have to do? Well, what does that have to do with?
Well, what it has to do with is the science says I need fresh oxygen. I don't breathe in my own CO2. That is unhealthy and is not good for the immune system over a long period of time. So I will not do it. Thank you. And that is my reason.
You don't have to wear when you're outside. But just like you want your surgeon to wear the mask when he's operating on you, right?
Yeah, so the blood doesn't gush in his face. But he's operating on me, and blood
That's not
is
why he wears
all over the place.
a mask.
Sure it is. That's one of the reasons. That's what I was told.
So the blood doesn't gush in his face.
All right, I got to move on. I can't.
You bet.
I got to move on. Watch this.
Well, don't.
Welcome, everybody.
Tonight, Oklahoma's governor signing a new law criminalizing abortions, one of the most severe in the country.
We want Oklahoma to be the most pro-life, state in the country. We want to outlaw abortion.
The new law now making it a felony to perform an abortion at any point in a known pregnancy, punishable by up to 10 years in prison. The pregnant women involved would not be criminally charged. The burden instead falls on abortion providers, like those at Planned Parenthood or the Trust Women Clinic.
We knew that it was coming, but that doesn't make it any easier.
In Oklahoma, we may have to pivot away from providing abortion care.
The law takes effect this summer. The only exclusion is to save the life of a mother. No exceptions in cases of rape or incest. We spoke with protesters outside the Oklahoma State House last week.
What do you make of the fact that this fight has gone on now for decades or is being rehashed again now?
Well, it seems ludicrous, really.
Yeah, and I think it's just a way for politicians to win votes when they really don't care about what goes on in a woman's body any other time.
The White House calling the new law a, quote, unconstitutional attack on women's rights. Experts say it's sure to face legal challenges.
The bill is clearly unconstitutional. It's unique. It's a provision that criminalizes people who provide abortion.
But the bill comes as part of an aggressive push by Republican leaders in 28 states to restrict or ban abortions. Just a few days ago, the Idaho Supreme Court temporarily blocked a law that bans abortions after 6 weeks, after Planned Parenthood sued. The U.S. Supreme Court is also expected to rule on a Mississippi law that bans abortions after 15 weeks. Their decision could severely erode or overturn Roe v. Wade and impact the constitutional success of these latest measures.
It takes a long time to mount one of these challenges, and of course the fear is that the Supreme Court will change the law.
Though Oklahoma's new law might be challenged, anti-abortion activists say it sets a good precedent.
It's definitely a step in the right direction. We can no longer deny that the unborn child is there, and he or she should be given rights.
Advocates for women's health, though, see it differently.
We are incredibly disappointed that lawmakers are disregarding the health and well-being of their constituents.
Maura Barrett, NBC News.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.
Okay, before we go on, Aguna's unable to join us tonight because he's battling the flu, but he is joining us by comment, and this is what he has to say. I'll show his comments. He's telling Keith, get the booster. He also said Keith was scared. He was scared. And then Aguna says to Keith, cool, nobody wears a mask endlessly, but if they do, it's their choice.
Yep.
So let's go on to thank you.
Well, let me
Aguna.
comment. Let me quickly
comment.
comment.
Go ahead and comment, Keith, because Aguna is watching.
I agree with Aguna on the last point. Aguna, you're right. It is their choice to wear a mask, just like it's my choice not to wear a mask. Thank you. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Aguna. He is watching, but he can't talk, and if he talks, he'll start coughing profusely. Now, I think he's got the COVID. He talking about he got the flu.
Again?
But I mean, who gets the COVID? I mean, who gets the flu nowadays?
Didn't he get it twice, or did he? I don't know.
No, he just said right on. He's just said right on. He got the COVID. That was prior to there being a vaccine, right, Todd? Right, Aguna? You got the COVID prior to the vaccine.
Well, I hope you get better, Aguna. We look forward to seeing you again. You know, take care of yourself. Drink a lot of liquids and eat a lot of vegetables and fruits. That'll be very.
Oh, he said no. Aguna said no. He tested negative.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Well, sometimes those tests are premature. You know, when you get into it, maybe a week later, it may come out positive.
Ugh.
But no, he said he tested negative, so he's got the flu. I don't know who gets the flu nowadays because everyone usually is wearing masks, right?
Yeah, that's right, Todd. They do, you know. And not only that, but the COVID is pretty much dominated. I haven't heard of anybody getting the flu since COVID's been around. But anyway,
Have you, Todd?
I digress.
Okay.
Hey,
I'm not
listen,
entertaining that.
I just wanted to, let me comment on what you just played. Thank God for that law, because I'm glad they settled something, because I wasn't sure. I said, are they going to criminalize the woman, the mother? But no, they're not. They're going to criminalize the Planned Parenthood or the people who commit the abortions. In other words, the doctors, and they are supposed to protect life. They're not to kill, but to protect life. But they're killing
Also, they're
babies.
going to prosecute the cab driver or the Uber driver or your neighbor or
Well, you believe
what
in
is so funny
prosecuting
about that?
you believe in prosecuting the manufacturers of guns, those assault weapons that kill
Okay.
1,000 people
So
at
in
one
other
time.
words, this is how a radical Republican thinks. Well, so what? Uber drivers should get sued. This is the most outrageous, and the radical Republicans are getting more and more
Uber driver?
animated.
Where'd you get that from? We're talking about Planned Parenthood. We're talking about people who commit people who do the abortions. We're talking about the clinics. We're talking about the medical
But they're
professionals.
saying it is the woman's choice. And what right does a man, and especially legislators, have to make a choice for a woman's body? It's not their body. Do you have a woman's body, Keith?
Well, no, but what if the women are making
Let-
the law? What if women are involved in the legislature? You don't
Some
think
of them
women?
are,
Okay.
but some of
Okay,
them are, but Keith, it's not enough. What were you going to
but
say,
you
Cousin
don't think
Todd?
you're trying to say
I
that all
was
men?
going to I was going to say, because when you ask Keith things, it just gets so ridiculous. This is what I'm saying. These men,
Jesus.
particularly white Republican men, have no business pretending, because it's all a pretense, that they're so interested in children and saving the children. For what? When they're born, they couldn't give a crap about them. For example, these shootings that you just heard where 14 people were killed, and you'll hear them say, our thoughts and prayers go out to them, and nothing
Yes,
more.
thank God. Thank
And
God for
like I
that.
said, their next line is, what are we going to eat? And so when you have heartless people like that, they're not interested, because once this baby is born, will they give you any extra monies? For example, Joe Biden gave families, anybody with children under the age of 18, $200 a month extra, because people need that. If you make less than $100,000 a year, or I think $150,000, it was per child $200, which was a good idea
A bad
because
idea.
children need that.
Bad
For
idea.
example, I was asking Stephen about that, and he said, I had to work 2 jobs when my kid was that young. Well, who suffered for that? The child. Because the child didn't see his father. If the father's working 8 hours on one job and 5 hours on the other job, America is better than that.
I got a
So
question for you.
the
No, so
$200
wait a minute.
Mhm.
Go
a
ahead,
month
finish your point, Todd. We have people commenting.
would help those who are uh, who need the help, who are food deprived and that kind of a thing.
So
So that was just smart to do. Go ahead.
So Paper Doll says, in the most extreme cases, being forced to give birth, even in an instance of rape, and incest is rape too, it's bizarre to even have this up for debate, the right to one's own body. Now, Aguna says, so if a baby is brain dead, you don't have to read it, Todd. I'm going to read it. So if a baby is brain dead, a woman has to take the baby to term because of a government mandate. And then
that means, go ahead. I was going to explain what that meant.
And then wait,
abortion,
Paper Doll says, wait a minute, Paper Doll says, my body, my choice, except if you're a woman. This is the Handmaid's Tale come to life. Women being forced to carry pregnancies against their will. Aguna says, cherry picking government overreach. And then Aguna says termination. Wait, and then you comment, Todd. Termination of a pregnancy should be a choice between the woman, her doctor, and her God. It's always a hard decision to make. Go ahead, Cousin Todd.
Okay. I was going to say about rape and incest. That Republicans used to go along with that. But they've gotten so radicalized, now they say it doesn't matter. Now, what Aguna was talking about is if you have an ectopic pregnancy, for example, you got to get that baby out of you because the baby is no longer viable. But the way to get it out is by having an abortion. And so if the doctor does that, the doctor may get sued. So what is the doctor going to do? They don't want to be bothered with a court case because you, Keith, or whoever's trying to sue, didn't know all the ins and outs. You just filed the lawsuit because you wanted $10,000 minimum.
Well, first of all, if the baby's dead, what are you talking about? If the baby's dead, then he's dead when you take him out.
Wait, when you take him out, who's going to take him out?
The hospital, the doctors, they'll take the baby out.
That's an abortion.
Okay, well, if the baby's dead, he's dead. What's the problem? If he's dead, he's dead.
That's an abortion. You know that, right?
Yes, but then again, the baby is dead. Okay, the baby, if his scenario was he was brain dead.
To court. The doctor has to go to court to prove that.
I don't see how that's reasonable. I don't see how that would happen. Because if the baby is brain dead, if they've already clinically claimed the baby is dead, then how in the world are they going to be tried or convicted for some kind of crime? Because they
abortions are illegal in the United States, or they want them to be illegal.
Let me say this about what Aguna said, though. I want to say the woman's, it's really interesting. I thank God, and you guys, we should all be thankful for this, Stacey, for what I'm about to say. Isn't it great that when Mary gave birth to Jesus as a virgin, in other words, it was not because of Joseph's seed, but it was a supernatural birth. Thank God she didn't abort Jesus. Isn't that wonderful? Because now Jesus, for what Jesus has done for all of us. Thank God for that. Woo.
Right. But what about masturbation?
I just wanted to say
what about masturbation, Keith? Do you think there is that a sin?
You don't have to change the subject.
Go to jail for masturbation?
That has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Think about what I just said.
Men should go to jail for masturbation. What should be the punishment for that?
Look what it says. Brain dead.
So Aguna says brain dead may still have a heartbeat. So the baby could be brain dead, but still have the heartbeat, but still be in the woman's body. And then Aguna says, plain dumb can't save you. So I think he's talking to you, Keith.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm commenting. That's why I'm saying
it's only one dum-dum here.
Dr. Aguna, if you're brain dead, but you have a heartbeat, wouldn't it make sense to go ahead and go through the process and see what happens when the baby is born? If you just let the baby come. Yes, if the baby has a heartbeat and the baby and you say he's brain dead or she, then go ahead with the process. In other words, go ahead and let the baby be born and see.
A vegetable.
Well, that's right. And if the baby comes out a vegetable, then obviously
who's going to pay for that vegetable?
The baby is dead, so
who's going to pay for that vegetable?
The baby will have no life in him, and then obviously you've settled the matter. So
Keith,
go ahead and
Aguna said, Keith, you need to fight for sperm rights too.
Well, why would he say that? I don't understand sperm rights. What does that even mean?
He's following up on my comment about masturbation.
What about it? What about it?
I'm going to move on.
No, I mean, that's...
President Joe Biden came to Japan to bolster one of the US's most important alliances in the Asia-Pacific at a time of multiple challenges across the region. But he may have worsened one of those regional flashpoints with less than tactful answers at the main news conference, as he's done in the past. It came in response to a question about whether the US would respond militarily to a Chinese invasion to take the island of Taiwan that Beijing regards as a breakaway territory.
Are you willing to get involved militarily to defend Taiwan if it comes to that?
Yes,
You are.
that's the commitment we made.
The US stance on Taiwan has been far more ambiguous in the past, and the White House immediately had to release a statement trying to clarify the US position. But what sounded like a threat to China brought this response.
The Taiwan issue is purely China's internal affair, which won't stand for any foreign interference. Issues bearing on China's core interests, including the sovereignty and territorial integrity, there is no room for compromise or concession. No one should underestimate the Chinese people's firm resolution.
This has turned into something of a distraction in what is meant to be a strong show of unity against Russian aggression and also against increasing military threats from China, as well as increased missile testing from North Korea. As the only nation to have been subjected to an atomic attack, Japan is deeply concerned by North Korea's development of its nuclear arsenal, but it's also troubled by the increasing assertiveness of China, with ongoing territorial disputes in the East China Sea.
As a major power, China has significant responsibilities, also in the economic field, to live up to that responsibility. I think it is important for Japan to work with the United States to encourage China to fulfill its responsibilities in accordance with international rules. I think such attitudes are important.
Biden has also used the trip to launch the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, an initiative aimed at safeguarding and developing production of critical commodities like advanced semiconductors and setting universal standards for labor and environmental protection.
It's very, very clear that from America's perspective, China is now the biggest competitor on all fronts. And as a result of that, what America is doing now is building alliances across the world.
This visit will culminate in a summit meeting of the leaders of the so-called Quad Security Alliance, led by the US and seen as a further attempt to constrain China militarily in the region. Rob McBride, Al Jazeera, Tokyo.
So that I thought was a very dangerous thing that President Biden said about China, about us defending militarily Taiwan. I want to share this comment real quick from someone. You gotta love YouTube. Says right. So who pays for the baby once it's here?
You do.
I asked that question. I said, does the government pay for that vegetable once it's born?
Yes. Just like everything else we pay for, we'll pay for that. Yep.
Okay. So Todd, do you want to talk about President Biden's response to China if China were to invade Taiwan? He's saying that we would go in, our U.S. military would go in and defend Taiwan, which would put us in World War III. I think the president was wrong with that, wasn't he?
No. That was to get China together. And because China is looking at Russia, and you have to put these people in their place. We're still America, and we're not going to tolerate if we're partners with you, we got to protect you. For example, when Russia invaded, it just left me. Ukraine. When Russia invaded Ukraine, we were supposed to help Ukraine because we told Ukraine if they would get rid of their nuclear weapons, we would protect them. Russia told them the same thing. And of course, Russia invaded them. And though we're doing enough now, but it took us too long to get to this point. And so when you make a commitment to a country, you have to keep that commitment. So when you got these saber rattlers like Russia and China trying to flex their muscle, you got to push back. Now, of course, they say Biden should not have said that. He should have been more strategic. And no, sometimes you got to just call it out and say what it is.
All right, Keith,
So
do
I
you
think
have
he did the right thing because they try to make him into a punk and try to make this wacko Trump into some kind of a war hero, even though he never went to war, he never even in the military. Bone spurs, you know.
Keith, you want to make a quick comment before we move on?
Yeah, I'll just say that we need Trump. We need Trump. We need Trump because
To do what?
Trump is the one who really laid down the hammer. Trump is the one who knew how to use the rod of correction, the attitude adjuster. That's what they call this.
Correction?
The
What
rod
does that
of
mean?
correction. Now,
All right.
the
When
rod
he
of
partnered
correction,
with Putin,
Trump
is
knew
that
how to
when
use
he
it.
used the rod of correction?
China, you notice how China is acting all snooty now because they know that Biden is weak. And that's obvious because China was never acting like this when Trump was in office. And Trump used to come out publicly and blame China. But Trump used to come up and say, China's eating our lunch. China's not going to do it anymore on my watch. In other words, he was right. He was right,
Wasn't
folks.
Donald Trump sending love letters to...
Aguna said China and the U.S. are economic partners. Go ahead, Cousin Todd. You said, wasn't Donald Trump sending love letters to Putin?
To North Korean, well, he was cheating on Putin with the North Korean president, but he was sending love letters. They were sending love letters back and forth. And
but
so,
what is China doing now? Aguna saying, what is China doing?
China is
just Keith.
Like China is snooty, acting snooty. Just like that dude, you know, when he came out and spoke on the soundbite that you gave, you see how he walked, you see how his persona was, how he carried himself, the way he spoke. I mean, the guy was like, you know, these are China's affairs. So you stay out of it. In other words, the United States, stay out of our business.
Well, he's saying that China didn't take Trump seriously. They didn't take Trump seriously.
Well, look,
no, they laughed at Trump.
If they didn't take him seriously, why is it that they were so quiet? But now they're so snooty.
They weren't quiet. They laughed at him out loud.
No.
Okay, so I got to move on. And it's really interesting that Putin banned a lot of people, a lot of Americans from ever entering Russia again. But former President Trump wasn't on that list.
Well, you know, hey, I got to make this comment.
Well,
you know, Aguna is pretty active right now for a guy that has the flu. Aguna, are you sure you have the flu? Or are you just trying to, you know, not come on the show because well, whatever. I mean, look, the guy is really active out there. Look at him. Thanks for not
move on.
He said thanks for not answering.
Aguna is all right. He's active, man. He's powerful.
All right, I'm going to move on.
A man in Ohio has been charged in connection with an alleged plot to assassinate former President George W. Bush in Dallas. The 52-year-old suspect was arrested this morning and appeared in federal court this afternoon. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, the suspect is an Iraqi citizen living in Ohio after filing a claim for asylum just last year. He allegedly traveled to Dallas in February to take video around Mr. Bush's home. Our Andrea Lucia is following this story, and we'll have the very latest for you starting at 4 o'clock.
So this just came out today, breaking news. President Trump, there was a plot against his life by an Iraqi citizen.
Trump? You said Trump?
I'm sorry, Bush, George W.
Boy,
Bush.
you guys can't get Trump off your mind here. But anyway.
We were just talking about Trump. I'm talking about George W. Bush. Thank you for the correction, Keith. There was a plot to assassinate him that was just unfoiled today by an undercover officer who was really looking at that Iraqi citizen for trying to smuggle people, Iraqis or other foreigners, illegally into the United States. And then he found out that criminal was trying to form a plot against former President George W. Bush, Cousin Todd. That was good that they looked into that and found that out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When these things happen, it's really scary, and you think, why would you want to assassinate? He's not president anymore. You know, it's not like he's out always public like Trump. And for him to have a death threat like that was scary. You haven't heard of an ex-president being threatened that way.
So Aguna said first they throw They threw a shoe at him. Now they're trying to kill him.
Which was disrespectful completely. I hated that. And I was not a fan, particularly of Bush, neither one. But I don't tolerate that kind of disrespect from for our president.
Well, I worked for President George W. Bush, so I thought he was really fast on his feet. So anyway, Aguna Key says,
is that a joke? Are you making a joke that he ducked that shoe? He was fast on his feet?
Yes, he ducked that shoe.
Oh.
So Aguna says his hands
I didn't think you Republicans had a sense of humor.
Yeah, I see his hands work. So what?
So let's talk about this. So what? So let's talk about this last primary, May 17th primary, and what happened.
And friends, I want to thank President Donald J. Trump.
There were primaries in 5 states, but the big ones that were watched the most closely were in Pennsylvania and North Carolina. A kind of Trump-backed Republican, Ted Budd, won the Republican Senate primary, and he will take on.
All right. Woo. Sounds good.
Okay. We're having a little technical difficulty. That often happens during live shows. Let me try to replay that clip about what occurred at our on the primaries, specifically all over in North Carolina and Pennsylvania last week. Let me try to play that clip again.
I'm just so happy. I'm so happy. Yes. I guess it must be just the anointing of God. Thank you, Lord Jesus.
Either that or mentally unstable.
I just can't help it.
And friends, I want to thank President Donald J. Trump.
There were primaries in 5 states, but the big ones that were watched the most closely were in Pennsylvania and North Carolina. A kind of Trump-backed Republican, Ted Budd, won the Republican Senate primary, and he will take on Sherry Beasley, the Democratic nominee. That will put, a matchup between a Republican who is a sort of denier of the election versus a potentially history-making woman. But it's a very hard state for Democrats to win. I think they're hoping that Sherry Beasley will be able to really excite, suburban voters, and also, there's a large African-American vote in the state.
It is all hands on deck.
So there were 2 big statewide races in Pennsylvania, a governor's race and also a Senate race. In the governor's race, Democrats sort of cleared the field. They had, one candidate, Josh Shapiro, the attorney general of the state. And so, of course, he coasted to victory since he had no opponent. But on the Republican side, Doug Mastriano, the loudest voices against the 2020 election in Pennsylvania, urging the president to come there, talking frequently with the president's advisors in the sort of run up to January 6th. He was in DC at a Stop the Steal rally on January 6th, and he won on the Republican side.
That's how we do it. People like you and us rising up together, standing in a gap for our states and nations, not standing aside, not being bullied by the lies, of course, in the media.
The Republican strategists that I talked to are very worried about him because they're concerned that he's so extreme that he won't be able to win in November. And so there had been sort of last minute effort by some establishment Republicans to make sure that he did not win the nomination, but in fact he did.
The left, together with their friends in the traditional media, of course, are trying to paint us in a particular picture. And my campaign has no place for hate, bigotry, and intolerance. And that's the same that's right.
I mean, I think one of the things you definitely are beginning to see in these primaries is that sort of Trumpism is outrunning Trump the person. And so what I mean by that is there are candidates out there who are sounding and campaigning just like Donald Trump did. And Trump is not always endorsing them. He's sort of sometimes playing the role that, of what an establishment Republican kind of does to look down the road and say, well, actually, could that person win in a general election? Maybe we shouldn't be backing somebody who's, saying these things. Certainly Mastriano is a great example. Trump decided just at the very end to get there, but also Kathy Barnett, who did not win in Pennsylvania. She very much was in the Trump vein of candidates. So in some cases, Trump has been sort of catching up to his own movement.
President Trump endorsed me last June. He said this. He said, Ted, I'm endorsing you because you never wavered on America First policies.
I mean, one of the things that is interesting across all of these Republican primaries, and it was really underscored last night, is you have, hardcore election deniers winning in statewide in 2 states. I mean, you look at North Carolina, where Ted Budd won. He was one of he's a member of the House of Representatives right now, and he is one of the 139 House members who voted to object to the election on January 6th. Mastriano, who was also a leading voice for sort of overturning the election in Pennsylvania. He was out there pushing hard for those 90,000 votes, and that's what Biden won by, to be disqualified. And he would be, if he wins, the governor of the state. Pennsylvania is perennially a swing state in presidential elections. It's where elections are decided. So the idea of having a person, an elected official, who's the governor of the state, who has, very views that are well outside the established norm on elections is significant.
Okay, Cousin Todd, real quickly, we're running out of time. Do you want to talk about the May 17th primary outcomes from what you just heard?
Well, Georgia
May 17th, not May 24th. Today is May 24th with Georgia. We're going to talk about next. May 17th was Pennsylvania, North Carolina. Idaho.
Pennsylvania in particular, the Oz and what's his name? The other McCormick. That's a tight race.
Very tight.
I think it's only 1,000 votes to separate them. And I think Oz is going to edge him out. Now, this is the thing about Oz. Years ago, Oz just seemed like a normal guy with a TV show. And now, if you look at him, he has to talk a certain way. For example, he made a commercial advertising himself. And he didn't talk about his background, his degree in medicine, no, he talked about owning a gun. And I felt like he dumbed himself down to be in with the Trump gang. All he talked about was, I believe in the Second Amendment to carry a gun. And then he shot with a shotgun, and somebody said he probably, anyway, and I think Dr. Fauci should be fired. What does that have to do? And so he has to dumb himself down in such a way that the less educated, the less intelligent, the low information voters will like him. And he's doing just that. And every other word is, Trump likes me. Trump said so. I thank Trump for... Do you see how ridiculous? And so this is what the Republican Party has turned into.
All right. So I'm going to play
behind Donald Trump.
I'm going to play about
why they all lick behind Donald Trump like that.
I'm going to play about the May 24th, today's primaries, and then we'll have Keith respond because we're running out of time.
Back tonight, so let's bring in ABC News political director Rick Klein with Rick's picks. All right, Rick, let's start with the state of Georgia, of course. A lot of big races. What are you watching?
Yeah, Kira, Georgia is the main event tonight, and this is the map of how Senator Warnock won his election as a senator last January of 2021. And it gives you a sense of how divided Georgia is and what the stakes are for the Senate race as well as the governor's race. Here in the Atlanta suburbs, where we saw Democratic turnout way up back in early 2021 in the wake of Donald Trump's loss, and through the central part of the state where you saw Republican turnout way down. Now, Republicans, their challenge is to get energized all over again, given the civil war that is taking place inside their party. Former President Trump has a pick. He has made it his mission to try to defeat the Republican governor and the Republican Secretary of State. It's possible that we have a split decision. It's possible that it goes to runoffs. But Democrats know they've got, waiting on the other side, Stacey Abrams running for governor again and Senator Warnock. That is basically a Democratic dream team. They'd love to recreate this map, although they know how difficult this political environment is.
So what about the former president? Another round of big endorsements, but also potentially facing some pretty big losses.
Kira, take a look at the 4 states that are voting in statewide primaries or runoffs today. In each of these states, you have at least one, in some cases several candidates that have been endorsed by former President Trump, who also endorsed the idea that the last election was not legitimately decided, the so-called big lie. And that becomes a very high-profile and high-stakes fight. We talk about it there in Georgia. Even in Alabama, things got really, really fascinating there when Mo Brooks got unendorsed by former President Trump. He, though, has not distanced himself from Trump at all. He has doubled down on his association with Trump, even putting Trump's name and that endorsement in mailers. And something odd has happened where Brooks is back in the conversation. He could squeak through, maybe advance into a runoff, which puts Trump in a weird spot. Although all of these candidates, we should note, are pretty strong in saying falsely that the last election was stolen.
It's kind of funny, unendorsed and still putting support in the ads. It sounds like something that that Trump would actually do. Finally, some familiar names are on the ballot in Texas and Arkansas. Some folks we know pretty well. What's going on there?
Nothing new about political dynasties, but some interesting potential fates for those bold-faced names today. In Arkansas, the leading candidate for governor on the Republican side, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She of course, is the daughter of former governor Mike Huckabee, who served about a decade as the governor in the state of Arkansas. She was also Donald Trump's press secretary. She's got the Trump endorsement. A bit of a different story in Texas. George P. Bush, we've talked about him, Kira, for 2 decades now as a rising star in the Republican Party. Jeb Bush's son, George W. Bush's nephew. He has become the only member of the Bush family to embrace Trumpism fully. He's running for Attorney General, currently the Texas Land Commissioner. Polls suggest he's got his work cut out for him against the incumbent there, Ken Paxton, who, despite a whole raft of scandals and legal challenges, appears to be the leading candidate to emerge out of the runoff. And he's the guy that's got Trump's endorsement as well. Both of those candidates have tried to play up their connections to Trump, but a Bush losing in Texas would be a very big deal, Kira.
Yeah, well, those are going to be fun races to watch for sure. Rick,
clip from you of a speech that Stacey Abrams gave at a Democratic fundraiser over the weekend that's getting a lot of attention from Republicans. In it, she says that Georgia is the worst state in the country to live, before going on to list a number of quality of life issues like maternal mortality and incarceration. Here's a little bit of her remarks, and then we'll talk more on the other side. Take a look.
I am tired of hearing about being the best state in the country to do business when we are the worst state in the country to live. When you're number 48 for mental health, when you're number 1 for maternal mortality, when you have an incarceration rate that's on the rise and wages that are on the decline, then you're not the number 1 place to live in the United States. But we can get there, Gwinnett.
Now, Garrett, as you can well imagine, Governor Kemp immediately seized on that, tweeted essentially saying that he believes that Georgia is the best state to live, work, and do business, and he wants to fight to keep it that way. And I talked with his team, and they said that he will very likely mention that during that rally tonight on stage with the former vice president. Now, Abrams' team has pointed me back to her tweets where essentially she doubled down on that, kind of fleshed out those stats a little bit more and said, in her words, Governor Kemp doesn't care, but when I'm governor, I will fight to make sure that all Georgians essentially have access to the best quality of life. Garrett.
Boy, those are long. I want to get that in because we are out of time. So this will be our roundtable. Keith, do you want to talk about the Republicans and the primaries, how they ran in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, today in Texas, Arkansas, Alabama, and Georgia? And you got to make it quick, Keith. Sorry.
Well, the only thing I'll say is that, I praise God. I applaud those who support Trump, and those who Trump supported. I applaud them. And also Pennsylvania, I'm a little bit I mean, why is it that it takes so long to determine the winner in these, and yet we go with and yet we have such integrity in the elections and such modern day machines and mail-in ballots, not like the old original paper ballots. And yet it takes so long. When we have the paper ballots, everything we found out the next day, pretty much. I mean, going 6 days, I think 7 days, Pennsylvania has not determined the winner. All right. But anyway,
Probably
that's what I
voter
would
fraud,
say.
don't you think?
I'm not going to say, but it does bring questions. And so those are the things that I'm concerned about, for this year is, why is it taking so long? I mean, for them to determine winners. Oh, wait, Aguna is saying something, Stacey. So,
yes, Aguna said, notice how the GOP, Todd, don't talk and try to read it while I'm reading it. Notice how the GOP has become a party of gimmicks versus running on a legitimate platform. Low taxes, strong military has been replaced with I like Trump. Aguna says it's bumper sticker politics. Abrams was addressing problems. Kemp was in denial. Not true. And Aguna says, I can defend myself, Keith.
well, Aguna, the reason is because we miss Trump. We miss Uncle Trump. I mean, Trump had everything going good,
Uncle
and
Trump.
now all of a sudden Biden just messed it up. That's
and
why.
Aguna says they always project winner, and it takes months to verify the vote count. And in Pennsylvania in particular, as soon as it's within a certain amount of votes between each candidate, it's an automatic recount. And that means that the state of Pennsylvania has a certain amount of time to recount all the votes. I'm in Pennsylvania. When I voted, they automatically, I just put my paper slot right through a machine, and it took my votes automatically. They no longer have to do the old-fashioned way, but they keep a copy. They keep my original voting paper so that they can, if there's a recount like this, they can go back and verify what I voted. Cousin Todd?
All right.
Yeah, they have ways of verifying who voted and who didn't, who was legal and who wasn't. And so this is why when you hear Trump supporters say it was voter fraud, you think, how? Why? Is it voter fraud just because nut jobs said so? Even though over 60 different courts said no evidence of voter fraud. Oh, you're playing music on me.
I heard music.
Yeah. That's what the Republicans do when they want you to shut up. So anyway, too much truth for you Republicans. Anyway, now this double talk that the Republicans are doing, I forget his name, of running against Oz. He's suing. I mean, McCormick is suing to have every vote counted, even if it doesn't have the date. You have to put the date on the mail-in ballots. And the Republicans said, oh, no. Now, of course, he's suing to get those votes counted. So the Republicans are so double-talky, wishy-washy, flip-floppy. It's an embarrassment what the Republican Party has turned into.
Okay, thank you. We have run out of time. To our first responders in our community, you make our lives livable. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To the women and men of the U.S. military for all that you do in sacrificing your lives so that we are free to say whatever we choose on this show, we are forever indebted. On behalf of Aguna, the Nigerian moderate Republican who is sick with the flu but contributed, Keith, the constitutional conservative, Stephen, the independent thinker who's off,
Yeah, and he's not the independent thinker anyway.
And my cousin Todd, I'm Stacey Johnson. Let's keep this conversation going on Twitter. We will be off next week. No live show next week on YouTube. Although you can go on YouTube and watch any of our previous episodes. Remember to always like and subscribe. No live show next week. Feel better, Aguna. We'll talk to you after that.
And what about our other networks that we're on?
Oh, that's right. Check us out on Twitter, Twitch,
The Flow.
the Flow Television Network, their Facebook channel, and also the Flow Television Network. And we'll see you next week. I mean, the week after. 2 weeks live. Good night.
That's a Trump supporter.
What are you doing, Keith?
I am correcting the correction rod. I'm using the correction rod. I'm correcting
I
God.
think he's say no to drugs.
Aguna says, have a great holiday weekend. Good night.
Thank you, Aguna.